Hey, we are live with Ray Blanchard and Yana Sizonenko. Did I do half
You got
decent?
it right.
Yeah, okay. Yana, you are Ukrainian.
I am.
Ukrainian, Russian. Russian,
On the
Ukrainian.
border.
On the border.
Yes.
Russian, Ukrainian, or Ukrainian, Russian?
Ukrainian Russian.
Ukrainian, Russian. And Ray Blanchard, I feel like those are two very different names. Ray feels very Canadian. I feel like you're Canadian through and through.
I am. My family, on one side of my family, my mother's side of the family's been here for over 200 years. And my father's side of the family's been here for over 300 years.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm sitting across from a genuine Canadian?
Pretty much.
You know how rare that is?
My father's family was one of the 23 founding families of Prince Edward Island.
Come on.
Yeah, back in 1709.
What?
Yeah, and they emigrated to Prince Edward Island from, back then it was called Isle Saint-Jean, Prince Edward Island, and they emigrated from New France, which is now Nova Scotia. And they arrived sometime in the 1600s. We don't know exactly when.
I'm so disappointed that you don't know exactly when. Come
I
on, Ray.
actually
Can you go back and figure that out, please?
I actually did. We went to the archives in Nova Scotia, but it was crazy how much information they had. We didn't have enough time to do it.
So where are they? Do you know before that? Like what Blanchard? Where are they from? That's
France.
probably not. So Blanchard
Yeah,
is a French name.
French
Probably
name.
changed a little bit.
Blanchard.
No? Blanchard.
Blanchard, yeah.
Raymond Blanchard.
Oui.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, very cool. Wow.
Yeah. And my mother's side is the Irish Scottish.
Got it. Oh, okay. We share the Scottish side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our mom, her family's from I think it's south of Edinburgh. There, it's called a little place called Leven.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been to Scotland.
No, neither have I.
No, really, no.
But what's the maiden name?
Dewar, Dewar.
Dewar. Oh.
Yeah, I just saw a picture of our grandfather that I had never seen before with him next in a little van, and on the side it's painted and it says A. Dewar. His first name's Alexander. Nick's middle name.
He's a doer.
Yeah, and it says painting and decorating, and he's standing proudly by this van, and I was like,
great.
wow, yeah, I've never seen that before,
Nice.
and yeah, we're just not connected to that side of our family at all. Yeah, just kind of weird how families change over the years and you lose parts of the connections and stuff like that, right? It's kind of strange. But anyway, enough about the whole, background talk there. Please explain what the heck you were doing in Windsor, Ontario with something called the Bitcoin Building.
Sounds
so give everyone the overview, and then we can dive into some questions here.
We'll start back. We got to go back to 2015, 2016. Yana and we met in Toronto. I lived in Toronto my whole life, and Yana.
So you're a Leafs fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, we're already off to a great start here.
My whole life.
Okay, great.
Yana was immigrated to Toronto when she was like 16, so she was living there for most of her life. We met there, and after dating for a while, we decided to do a flip together. So we did a flip down at St. Lawrence Market, a condo flip. And
oh my God, our father built condos right by St. Lawrence Market.
Maybe
but anyway, yeah, cool, very cool.
So we did that flip. It took about 5 months, and we took this old condo that was owned by hoarders, and we cleaned it all out and turned it into like a Four Seasons apartment. And while we were living there, and so like moving the bedroom around as we were renovating, and so that went very well. Then we went traveling for a while to Central America, and then if you go a little further down, we ended up having a child together. And when that child, and during the time when she was pregnant, or before she got pregnant, she was bidding on all of these
Tax sales.
Tax sales.
Oh,
all
no
over
way.
All over Ontario.
No way.
Yeah, municipal
Yes.
tax sales.
Nick and I did that. We've met very few other people who've done that. Wow.
And she did it successfully.
Yes, I applied for 26 different places in Ontario. I won one in Windsor, and I actually only seen it on Google Maps. I didn't go in
So
person.
did you flip that thing, or do you still have this thing that you've never seen?
No, it looked beautiful on Google Maps, and then we came there. We opened the door, and it was full of mold. It was just black mold everywhere. 2 holes in the roof.
For 13 years.
For
those
13
holes have
years. So I was in a huge shock. And that was my first big renovation that I did on my own. and I thought it's gonna be a cosmetic flip, and it was like a huge gut job. Like I had to fix the roof, the brick. Thank God the foundation was okay.
And how were you were you traveling there regularly?
No, I moved there.
Oh, that's how you ended up. This was in Windsor.
This is in
And
Windsor.
so
was
this
in
is this
Windsor.
part of the reason that you're in Windsor now?
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Come
what
on.
led us to Windsor. She actually she got lucky and won a tax sale, and by the way, she got a house, a detached house, let's say 1.5 story house with full basement for
$50,000.
$50,000.
Come on, where? Windsor?
In Windsor.
In Windsor.
It was a
Ta-
tax
on a
sale.
tax
On
sale.
a tax sale, yes.
And
You're
that
the
was-
first person I've ever met. I'm not even joking. You're the first person I've ever met that scored on a tax sale.
And it was way overbid. The taxes owing to the city were only like $20,000 or something like that. But we had so many bidders, and then she ended up being the highest.
And what was it worth, do you think?
Actually, back at that time, it wasn't worth much. I put 110,000 in it into renovations, and I think I did pretty well. I did very good negotiations with the contractors. And by the time I was finished, I was in for about 170,000, and it was worth 170,000.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
But-
Sounds like
But yeah, but the rents, it was a student house because it was in a student area, and the rent was great, and my mortgage was really low, and then the market went just crazy. And
So when was this then?
that was 5 years ago.
Okay, yeah, Windsor started picking up.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I ended up selling it because I had to invest all the money into the Bitcoin building.
That's
we were
right.
short
But tell them what you
for
sold
the
it
second
for.
time, and I sold it for
$595. $595.
wasn't 600.
No, I think it was just under $595.
No,
Oh, Ray's
it was,
shaving a little off there.
It was over 600.
Yana, you didn't get
600,
600. It was
Yes.
595.
Oh,
Let's-
I might be
I
wrong.
think it was
Her memory's
608.
better than
It was York that sold for
Oh,
995.
that's right,
Yes, for about 610,000.
oh, good for you. Congrats on
Yes.
that. Wow.
So getting back to your original question, the reason why we were in Windsor is because of her tax sale. She and she'd been
Hold
bidding
the mic
all-
just a little closer to you, Ray.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
So she'd been bidding on tax sales all over Ontario, and she kept losing to other bidders. And then she finally won one, and we went there, and I helped her do the demolition on that place. Then we kind of took a little personal break for a little while. We were not together, and so she did the renovation. But I came there and did the demolition, and while we were both there, we were being offered like semi-detached homes side by side with a full basement that you could put an ADU in, and both of them together, $120,000. And I was kicking myself for not buying them, but we didn't end up buying them because I thought I'm never going to stay in Windsor. But she stayed in Windsor. She did the renovation.
Yes, and then we started looking at all the real estate magazines, and Windsor turned out to be number one for like 5 or 6 years in a row as the number one city for cash flow in real estate investment. We're like, well, I guess we're lucky for winning it.
Yeah, so that turned us on to Windsor. We after we got back together, we had a surprise. You know, little Aiden came along. My son's name
Cool.
is Aiden.
Yeah,
as well.
awesome.
We just spell it differently, but
How's Ian?
AYDEN.
AYDEN. Got it. Yeah, cool.
So that little joy, he came along, and when we decided that once he was born, when he was about 3 or 4 months, we decided we were going to move to Windsor and build and start a life all over again.
Wow.
And
You guys are crazy. I mean that as a compliment. Like most people don't really chase things as seriously as that. So good on you guys.
yeah, we just saw the potential in Windsor, and
Well, we saw the potential. Plus, we also took Tony Robbins seminars.
Yeah, that'll do that to you.
It
for
wa- it
sure.
definitely
Where did you take
did.
that? Was that when he came to Toronto?
We
or-
did it one in Chicago,
okay.
and it was really, it's like we just wanted to take over the Windsor. Like Ray even told me today after we finished Tony Robbins, I was like, I want to build a condo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so we got to Windsor and we just went into like attack mode. Like I bought 3 properties. Ray bought 2 properties, and then Ray found a business partner and they bought 4 more properties.
yeah, I was actually, when I got there, I had no job, and before coming to Windsor, I kind of messed up my whole financial life. I was doing my own thing, trading derivatives, which ended up being a disaster, and I messed up my whole financial life. I was almost basically, broke again. I had maybe $10,000 left. And so we went to Windsor. I was like, okay, we're going to start everything all over. I got a family. I got to get serious now. And so, yeah, I started doing handyman work. I just put an ad on Kijiji doing handyman work. Did that for about a month, making good money, about $4,000 to $5,000 a month. Well, decent money. And then I went to quote on this basement for this guy, and we started talking. And, you know, an hour later, 2 hours later, we started talking, and he wants to do flips. I want to do flips. He's the money guy. I'm the working partner, and a handshake deal. And we did 4 flips together.
No way.
Over the next year and a half. Yeah. And never a contract, just a handshake deal.
Holy smokes. So all in Windsor are those flips?
Yeah.
And
all
you found the flips. Were they easy to find because prices hadn't really appreciated yet?
Yeah,
so you could. I remember Nick and I took a tour through there about 5 years or 6 years ago. And we're like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity out here. It's a little bit, you know, we kind of have some stuff going on a little bit over here more. We're not going to go into Windsor. But at the time, I remember thinking, geez, I just didn't think the appreciation would hit the way it did in Windsor. I'm like, you know what? The cash flow will be here forever. I'm not completely sold on the appreciation. And then the appreciation started running in. So,
yeah. And it's going to go even more in the future. Like,
yeah. Why do you, I kind of feel that way now as well, but why are you thinking that?
well, we may be a little bit biased because we're completely invested in Windsor, but Windsor is for when you talk about Windsor, you got to talk about the Windsor Essex region, right? And there's about 500,000 people in that region right now. But in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be about $25 billion worth of major infrastructure and development projects going on, which is huge for such a small population. Now, strategically, it's a very, you know.
What are some of those projects? Are you referring to one of them being the new plant that's going to go in there?
That's right.
It's a battery.
Stellantis LG
Thank
EV
you.
battery.
Yes,
plant.
thank you.
That's only about. I think they said it was about $5 or $6 billion.
Off the top of your head, does another one stand out for you that's been announced?
Well, there's the mega hospital that's being built in combination between the city and the province and the federal government. That, you know, they say it's going to be $7 billion, but, you know, government, it's going to be 12, 15 billion
70.
by the time they're done.
Let's go 70.
They got the Gordie Howe Bridge. This is already under construction.
Okay.
That's another 7 to 8
That's a
billion.
new bridge or a renovation of an
No, it's a brand new bridge.
brand new?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be the second longest suspension bridge in all of the world after
Wow.
it's finished or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So that one's underway. I'd say they're about a third of the way done. Then you've got a new Amazon distribution center coming there. You've got all these filler places that are coming up to service the Stellantis LG plant. Chrysler has invested another $2 billion to retool its current plant there to add another third shift so that they can start making EV
Got it.
cars out of there. So there's huge amounts of investment. And just in residential real estate alone, this is for some of your investors that are listening, I know personally of over $500 million in residential real estate development going on and planned or going on in the downtown core of Windsor.
Are you part of the Windsor Tourism and Economic Board?
No, but I'm
okay.
I'm soon going to be part of the BIA probably.
Yeah, no, smart. And like any real estate investor, you're looking into this stuff because this is what brings the money. This is what forces the appreciation because the people come, the jobs come. It's all the fundamentals that matter. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so keep going with the story. You're doing all this stuff. You do these flips.
So we do these flips, and you asked the question, how do we find them? Half of them we found through wholesalers, and the other half we found right on the MLS.
How did you find the wholesalers?
There is basically you can join Facebook groups.
Okay, so just like kind of networking.
Yeah, networking events as well.
Okay.
To find the wholesalers, and we found. I think we bought 2 projects off a wholesaler, one off of a pocket deal in a real estate office, and then 3 of them we just found on MLS.
Wow. Okay, you guys are quite the team. This is both of you are doing stuff kind of like independently, but
and she's doing this while raising a young child.
Yeah.
So because I wasn't much to help in the first 2 years.
Women are just generally stronger and can handle more shit. I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, listen, I just complain a lot about stuff. Like if I'm not feeling well, you know, the classic like guys just complain about. Now I'm crying like a baby. My wife will handle a million things, and she's not feeling well. She'll complain for like one time. Barely and just move on. And I'm like for days, like, you know, what's wrong with me? This sucks. I think women are just stronger in a lot of capacities. But anyway, okay. So then the flips, and then what comes next?
So now we're in 2019. My partner and I have already, even though we're not finished our flips, we've discussed ending our partnership because I want to do bigger and better things, and he wants to stay in the the single family homes and the duplexes. And so I start thinking, okay, I think the biggest opportunities in Windsor are conversions from, because at the time, Windsor's office buildings downtown had like an average of 40% vacancy rates, which is huge.
Wow.
And the rent per square foot for these office space was like $9.50 a square foot on average.
Jeez.
It's cheap. And I did the math, and for residential real estate, you can get about $28 to $29 a square foot in Windsor, right? So it's not like I'm a genius. I just thought, okay, well, if I take an office building and convert it to residential,
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. The numbers are right there.
It's going to make a lot of
staring at you.
financial sense.
Yeah.
So I started looking at all these office buildings that were empty, and I saw this one beautiful one downtown called the Security Building. It's a nice, beautiful old Art Deco 10-story building, and I was like, and I looked at a couple other places, and I had a commercial real estate agent working with me, and I said, okay, just put in some offers at these ones and we'll see what happens, right? And or just see who's interested in selling, because none of these were on the market. They were just, all sitting there, waiting for opportunity. So he comes back to me, he says, oh yeah, the Security Building people are interested. This is what they're asking for, $4 million. And I was like, I think I said, well, let's offer them 2.9. Right? With no idea how I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have 2.9 million. So I said, offer 2.9. We ended up settling on 3.4 million, and they agreed to it. And then I was like, okay, great. I have to put down $50,000 down payment, which I had from the flips. Put that down.
That's not a bad down payment on that.
That's only for the due diligence period.
Yeah, got it. Like a deposit. Sorry, even as a deposit, that's not that bad of a deposit
for a 3.4 million.
Yeah.
And then once the due diligence period's over, we had to put it up to 250,000. Mm-hmm. So I'm going through the due diligence period, and I'm trying to find a partner, a financial partner, because my current financial partner doesn't have the kind of money to close that deal, and he's not interested in that. So I'm going around trying to find partners. And I was like, wow, I can't find anybody. I approached over 300 investors, and as far as the GTA, everywhere, all over Canada. And then the due diligence period comes up, and I have to either walk away from the deal or I have to put up the other 250. And I was like, no, I love this building. It's going to work. So I put up the other 250, and at the time I was mistaken. I'd made a really fatal mistake. Could have been fatal. I was under the impression that if you walk away from a commercial deal, you get your deposit back.
Oh, geez.
That was a big mistake. Foolish. So that was a big mistake. And I went firm on the deal, put the other 200,000 down, and basically had to beg, borrow, and steal to get up to the 200,000 to get it, put it down. And then I had, I think, 3 months to close the deal and find a partner. And I think I found another local businessman who finally, it was really difficult to get. He was traveling a lot over the holidays. It was really difficult to get him to nail him down and get him to come take a look. But when he came to the building and took a look, and I told him everything I wanted to do there, he was like, wow, I'm in. He wanted the whole penthouse for himself. And I was like, you can have the 2 floors. I don't care. Just sign the joint venture agreement. And but he did. We ended up signing the joint venture agreement with 2 weeks to close. And then we negotiated an extension, and then of course COVID happened. COVID hit. No banks wanted to talk about financing. So we had to go back and get a vendor take-back mortgage. We negotiated a 67% vendor take-back mortgage on that.
Come on.
Yeah, 2 years at 6%, and which was like a $2.3 million.
2 years. So does that come due? Like balloon payment? It's all done.
Yeah, after 2 years you have to pay. The
are you through that 2 year period now?
Well, I didn't actually end up closing on the deal.
Oh, keep going.
So what happened was we got that in place. He had the money. He had the rest of the money. He was going to put in about 1.5 million, and I got my 250,000 there. And I was going to be the GC and do all the work. He was just going to help oversee. And so about a week before closing, he calls me up. He's like, Ray, I don't like the split. I don't like the numbers. I'm not giving up 50%. You're putting up this. I'm putting up that. And anyways, he kind of went back on what we had signed in our agreement, but anyways, I had to renegotiate because I was in a do or die position. If we don't close this deal, I lose all of the money that I had. And anyways, a day before it got a little contentious, but the day before the deal closed, I told him, I said, you take the deal, take everything, just give me, I'll just take my deposit, my $250,000. And that's what happened. He took the deal. So he closed on it. He eventually ended up selling it for, before the vendor take back financing expired, he ended up selling it last year for basically a $2 million profit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And all he did was gut it and, kick out all the tenants, gut it and frame it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So he did pretty well. I have no hard feelings because when I
No, you didn't have a track record either in that space. So when you were going around looking for money to raise,
It was difficult.
it's obvious to me that would be difficult because if people are looking at you for that kind of money, it's like, well, Ray, what's your track record? And you're like, well, you know what?
I've done all these single
I did this
families.
stuff. Yeah, well, I see the potential here. Don't you see the potential in this?
Yeah.
So I could see the struggle in that, but kudos to you for going down that path. You just bit off a little bit too much for that time, but that's also how you grow and learn because everything you learned from that just propels you forward faster.
I
So
felt
it's,
like
it's
I
the
got-
right way. You did you did all the right things. Luckily, you didn't burn your hand touching the stove.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, financially, I didn't get
financially that you didn't get burned, but good on you.
But yeah, the education I got in those
Oh.
6-7 months were amazing.
priceless.
And so as soon as that deal ended, we're in April 2020, and I get my money back. I give a little bit of it back to my family that I had, and I'm left with a chunk of cash. And it's the middle of COVID, and no one's buying. No one is looking at real estate at all.
This must
no
have been
one
early COVID.
Yeah, April 2020.
Okay, April,
right? So
yeah.
it's just a month old. Nobody knows what's going on. I'm like, this is just going to be a cold virus. This is it. It's going to be over in 6 months. So I tell Yana, I say, okay. And she had just, she had finished all of her flips. She'd done all of her renovations. And so she's just sitting back collecting some rent. I'm like, okay, I need a partner. I want to buy another commercial property and do a conversion, not quite as big as that one. So I asked her, do you want to partner with me? Like this, because before we were just kind of doing everything separate.
Yeah.
And I was happy to have her. And she said, yes. She said, you want to be a partner? And we were like, yeah, okay, let's
Ray
do
didn't
this.
want to have any other partners
Yeah.
after that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. He learned. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy,
Yeah.
he kind of soured me on partnerships.
Yeah, it's always how Nick and I have been too, because we've done joint ventures over the years, but we could have done a lot more over the years. And it's just when we weighed dealing with people and our kind of life and lifestyle, we're just like, no, we'll just kind of pass on that. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So
I would do a joint venture again, but I would always make sure that I have control.
sure.
I can't give up control again. I'm just that way,
That's our preference too. In or even if it's a 50-50 thing, that we have voting control on if money's going to be spent. So, if we know money has to be spent somewhere, we're the ones deciding. And, anyway,
It's
so
just
good.
tricky.
It's stressful, but good on you. Okay.
So now it's April 2020. I'm sitting on some money. Yana's now going to be my partner. She's working on refinancing her properties to raise money, and we're going shopping. So I put out offers on 3 different properties in the downtown core. We went and looked at them personally all together, and there was a few that we really liked, and one that was okay. I think all of them would have been very successful conversions, and so we put these offers out there, very aggressive terms, and one of the landlords came back and he was willing to deal. So we bought this, what is now the Bitcoin building. We bought a 10,000 square foot, 2-story nightclub that had been boarded up for about a year and a half and was being used by the city's drug addicts as, a urinal and drug place to do other drugs.
drug place. I like that.
Yeah.
It was a drug. It's
It
your
was a drug
standard drug place.
That's right. Because the building, the first floor is halfway below grade. So there was this walk down and they could kind of have a little bit of privacy.
Yeah, got it.
And so they would go down there and do whatever they did. And
So it was destroyed, this building.
yeah, it was a huge eyesore in the downtown core.
But
But
you saw opportunity.
I did. I saw all these empty spaces that I could convert to apartment buildings. And Yana and I went through it, and she saw it right away too. We were both there. We're like, "Yep, we can do this. We can do this. This is a big empty nightclub." And the funny thing is, they closed it down. The city closed it down and took their liquor license away one day after there was a stabbing there.
Okay.
And that was back in 2018. And everything was just like everyone was just told to get out. And like bar.
So there was
drinks.
glasses still
Yeah,
in the bar?
glass on the bar, drinks in the bar, beer in the in the fridges. The only thing the seller took was the big expensive stereo equipment, like the speakers and the DJ equipment. They took that just before closing.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I didn't say, as is. I didn't specify that they had to leave everything in there.
That's crazy. Okay, so you get this, they accept the offer, and then what? You start this. You go through a zoning process. You start to get
Well,
permits.
even before that, I knew I couldn't get a standard mortgage on it, and we didn't want to tie up all my funds. So we negotiated. The deal was we bought it for $425,000.
Okay.
And I had to put $50,000 down because I kind of like that $50,000.
That's your number.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So I put the $50,000 down, and they carried a $375,000 vendor take-back mortgage
For how long?
for 2 years at 4%.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good on you.
and they bought the building 4 years previous to that for $499.
Wow.
This was a Toronto catering company that owned it. And so they just wanted to get it off because it was costing them money.
Sure. Carrying it.
Yeah.
I don't know, weren't doing anything with it.
Insurance and
Yeah.
taxes and everything. So they were happy to get rid of it, I guess.
They were going to flip it themselves or something?
They had tried selling it a couple times, but there was no takers.
Okay.
And there was even people that went through the building before me and thought about doing residential there, but they could only see 8 units or 7 or 8 units. And they weren't as aggressive in their thinking as I was. I came from Toronto, so we're used to smaller apartments. In Windsor, they were used to 1,200 square foot, 1-bedroom apartments. I was like, no,
geez.
no.
Yeah.
450 square foot. That's all.
More than enough space there. That's a luxury size right there. Yeah.
So that's how we designed it. We designed it, and so we fit 13 apartments plus a commercial space in it. So really, it's 14 units, and the numbers really work.
What's the commercial space?
So in order for, you asked about zoning, in order for me to keep the zoning the way it was, so it's zoned commercially, but it allows for residential. And this zoning was like probably the most beneficial in the whole city because it allows for residential, but the residential does not have to be upstairs above the commercial. It can actually be on the same
Did you know this before going firm on this deal?
I didn't. And then I figured it out afterwards.
Classic real estate investor.
Yeah.
No,
oh
no,
my God,
no.
we'll just figure it out as we go.
No, actually, the zoning in their papers show that first level has to be commercial, but they had another database. And once we actually bought it and they looked at the different database, they're like, oh, it's actually a different zoning, which worked for our benefit.
Yeah.
But we only found out after we bought the building.
When we bought it, all we thought we were going to do is put commercial, two or three commercial spaces on the ground floor and put 7 residential upstairs. But then when we found out that, the entry, because most of the zoning in the city is you can have an entrance to residential on the ground floor, but you can't have any residential. It has to be commercial. But this particular CD 3.6 was different, and it allowed for residential on the ground floor. But we did have to maintain a commercial space because it was not zoned just for residential. It was a zone for mixed use, but you had to keep a commercial space.
Of a certain size?
So
or?
we're like,
There was
how
no
big
size
does it have to
requirement.
be?
Yeah, we went
okay.
to the planning department. How big does it have
Yeah.
to be? Well, it doesn't really say in there, Ray. Oh, okay. Here's 130 square feet right behind the utility room. I'm going to make that my commercial spot. They can access it off the alleyway. And
Brilliant.
And that's how I was like, okay, now I can do residential everywhere else. The other 9,900 square feet can be residential. And I just kept a small little closet as a.
So you got the financing that you could handle the costs of this renovation. Did you have to source other funds for that?
No, because they carried the whole.
So
For the renovation. So when I left that previous deal with that partner over the 10-story, and I got out of all my partnerships with the other guy, I had about $200,000.
So you had some cash to play with to get.
So I only had to put $150,000 down. So I had $150,000 to put into renovations, and the plan was she was going to refinance some of her properties. And that would give us probably about $500,000 at the time we thought. But remember, we didn't know the real estate market was going to go crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
So we, we were just going to refinance. We weren't going to sell her properties. But anyways, we thought, well, okay, we'll get about the first $500,000 in renovations. And then after that, we'll just bring private money in because we've already added enough value. That was the strategy. And that's essentially what we did, except we ended up putting in more than the first 500 because the real estate market went crazy, and we decided, okay, let's just sell some of your properties. And, she was left with a lot more money than we thought.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then we ended up putting in, I don't know, about
$700.
$750,000 in total of our own money.
And then did you do the work in this thing?
I was the general contractor,
Okay.
hands-on as well, but I did sub out a lot of the work.
And what was the final configuration? Map it out for me one more time. One small commercial space off an alleyway somewhere, just so you can meet the bylaws.
That's right. So you basically in the middle of the ground floor, you have a utility room, and then we put our office space right behind that because we couldn't do an apartment there because there's no windows accessible. And then we put a locker room right behind that, and that was about the size of one apartment. Those three things. Then the downstairs has 6 apartments. They all have windows, right? So 2 of the apartments have windows off the alleyway. 4 of them have right off Palisher Street. And Palisher Street, by the way, is one of the nicest streets in the downtown Windsor.
Oh, wow.
So Willette Avenue is like the Yonge Street of Windsor.
Got it.
Right? It's the main street. Palisher Street is similar to like a Dundas or a Bay Street. So
Okay.
it's a big commercial street, but it's I think it's actually nicer than Willette. And so we have 6 units downstairs, all windows, and then upstairs we have 7 units, and they all have windows. And we did it in a way where 11 of the 13 units have balconies.
Oh, really nice.
Yeah.
And this is, sorry, you're selling these? What is this?
No,
has
it's
now
an
become a
apartment
rental property
Yeah.
for you guys.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a rental property. We have 13 apartments plus this little small commercial space, and we don't. People were interested in buying spaces, but it's not a condo, so we're just renting them out. And
Could it be turned into a condo or no?
it could.
Yeah,
We
okay.
just have to go through the
Yeah,
legal.
who wants to? And if you're happy as a
declarations.
rental property here, it sounds like a great property.
Yeah.
And
I think we're just happy to keep it.
And the renovation's complete, correct?
The renovation.
So you're renting it.
Tenancies are going to begin. We should get our final clearance for occupancy on the 29th, and tenancies begin on December 1st.
And do you think you're going to have any difficulty renting it out?
Well, we've already rented out 4 units. We already decided we were going to keep 6, maybe 7 units for ourselves, and I'll explain how we keep 6 or 7 for ourselves. But 4 units to people, and the idea is that they're going to rent them. They declare it as their personal residence because of the short-term rental bylaw. And I'm sure they will live there at some point in time, but that's not up to me. So we signed long-term rental agreements with them, and they're basically doing Airbnb arbitrage out of those units.
Oh, wow.
So they pay me, let's say, for a 1-bedroom that might normally get unfurnished 1-bedroom, maybe $1,900 a month in Windsor, which is pretty good for Windsor now. And they'll pay me like $2,200 or $2,300 all in, and then they can rent it out and make 5 to 6.
And you're comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm
the whole
okay.
Airbnb coming and going of people, you guys think that's going to be okay?
Yeah, because believe it or not, Airbnb apartments are better kept long term than long-term rentals.
Because the host or the landlord are just maintaining it just to attract good reviews.
Absolutely, you got to
and-
keep it in great
okay.
condition, or else people can get refunds. Plus, you got cleaners going in there on a regular basis, cleaning everything up and keeping an eye on everything.
Okay, so you've done that with 4 of the units you said.
Yeah, and we have another 3 or 4 that we're willing to do it on Airbnb arbitrage, but and I have people interested waiting to take a tour once we get back to Windsor on Friday. But we want to keep 6 of the units ourselves, which we will do 2 as short-term rentals, and then another 4 or 5 of them as midterm rentals. I know you had some guests on here recently talking
That's
about
right.
midterm rentals, which is a new thing, and I think it's going to be.
It seems like it's a rapidly evolving thing.
It is.
So why the midterm?
Well, midterms, because you don't have to abide by any short-term rental bylaws, right? Because technically it's a long-term rental, but you rent to people on a minimum of 30 days and maximum. I mean, you could set your own maximum, but for us, it's going to be 6 months. And then if they want to stay longer, they can just renew.
I think in Windsor, in that area, you're just going to find a ton of people needing and wanting midterm.
Well, we call it, what we're specializing in, what we call our niche in Windsor is we're specializing in executive transitional housing because there's all these mega projects that are happening. There's going to be a lot of engineers.
Why don't you do all midterm? Because you want some of the short-term cash flow?
Short term is going to be higher cash flow as
Yeah,
well.
okay.
Yeah. Like so long term, let's say that same 1-bedroom brings in $1,900 to $2,000. Midterm rentals, furnished executive midterm rentals that are 30 days to 6 months, you're looking at probably maybe let's say $3,000 to $5,000.
Got it.
Depending on the demand, 3,000 to 5,000. But a short-term rental, if you're operating it, on a nightly rent, you could probably bring in, I think, 7,000 to 8,000.
And your short-term rentals are probably same types of people, just shorter. They're in town looking for a place to stay.
Yeah, you're going to be dealing with more tourists as opposed to all business people.
Yeah, but you'll probably get some business people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And the investors that you've kind of accepted for those other units, these are people just over a little of a time of networking that you've come to grow and like.
Actually,
I'd imagine
two of them are contractors that worked for me.
Okay, I was going to say, because it sounds like it's a pretty good setup, so you must know these people and are like, okay.
Yeah,
fine.
I know them.
Yeah,
They're none. Actually, two of them I know. They were contractors that worked for me, and they just saw how the building was evolving. They're like, "Well, we want to be involved in this." And they were
from the
asking me if they
pictures
could
I've seen,
buy.
you've done just a beautiful job on this building. Like
Thank you,
it's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's been good. And then the other two were friends of theirs who came in, and they just saw that, and we just kind of clicked right away. They came in. I took them for a tour. As soon as they left, I said, "Yep, they're taking 2 units for sure." I knew. We just kind of clicked.
Local, they're in the Windsor area,
Yeah.
so they know what's going on. They see this product. They're like, "Oh,
yeah." They're in marketing and promotions as well.
Yeah, so they get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't talked about the name of the building and why it's named the Bitcoin Building.
Okay.
So yeah, where does this angle come from, and what have you done?
Okay.
What
I'll
have you
include
guys done?
on this
Yeah.
when we get to the day that I was going to name? I named it the Bitcoin Building. That as I came up for the idea, I thought bringing Liana.
Yana definitely thought you were crazy at some point for doing whatever you're about to say.
Actually, no. I think she.
I don't know.
Really
I don't know if
cool.
I'm going to buy this. I don't know if I'm going to buy this.
No, before the Bitcoin Building, the name was Blanchard Boutique Apartments.
Oh,
She didn't like that at all.
I didn't like that at all.
To me, that's like has a very Fort Lauderdale, Florida kind of feel to it, you know?
Yeah, we wanted to call it boutique because boutique means small, and they were smaller units, right?
Small and cute and cozy.
So our studios are right at like the building code minimum, like 435, 440, right? Those are our studio apartments. 1 bedrooms, you're looking at probably closer to 490, 500. 2 bedrooms, about 550 to 6.
Wow, you're shaking up the Windsor market.
I know, it's pretty small. And then 3 bedrooms is our largest apartment, and that's about 750 square feet. But it feels pretty spacey. It's
just
not
from looking
that-
at the way, I mean, I'm seeing it through
small.
pictures, but from seeing it, it looks like the way you guys have done it, it really looks nice.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't look so cramped.
No, I'm not getting that impression from the pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, how does this get
So
started?
I'm renovating one day at the Blanchard Boutique Apartments, and so another thing is, and I kind of have to take 2 steps back to explain how this came about. So when we took over this project, the downtown Windsor, in order to revitalize the downtown Windsor core, they have this program called the Downtown CIP. It's a community improvement program.
Okay.
A lot of cities have them, right? Where if you put in brand new residential into the downtown because they're trying to revitalize the downtown, they will give you grants and tax freezes, right? So so we applied for this program and we were accepted, and the city was very excited about this program right from the beginning. And I have to say honestly, even though the city was bogged down with a lot of stuff and during COVID and everything, they were really, really nice and accommodating the whole time because they really wanted this project.
Cool.
Because we were amongst one of the first people to actually start rebuilding the downtown.
Wow.
There was another project on the same street that was, they were building at the same time.
Why now? Are you seeing many?
Oh, since the Hive is finished, which is just up the street from us, and then our building, there is at least 6 other conversion projects going on in the downtown core. There's Canada's first vertical forest buildings developments has been announced. That's $150 million.
What's a vertical forest?
So there's going to be 2 apartment towers, and what they call it vertical forest because every single balcony and part and the outside of the building is all covered in forestry, like greenery. So when you look at the building, it looks like one vertical forest.
I'm gonna have water dripping down the side of my building constantly.
They'll have a lot of humidity, obviously,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's basically a big green building.
Okay.
They started, I think, in Italy. These buildings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's multiple of them, multiple buildings like this around the world, and this will be the first in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And
this is a private development?
It's a private development, but the money behind it is the Canada Pension Plan.
I don't know.
They're the
That
big.
gives-
they're the,
I don't know if
they're
that
the
gives me
money
any
investors.
confidence at all. But
Well,
the
they're
fact that
not
it's a
running.
private- okay,
They're not
okay.
running it. It's being run by a REIT.
Okay.
Right.
If it's being run privately, then I can believe in this project. If it's an entirely government thing, I'm suspicious. But yeah, okay.
It's an investment trust here in Toronto that's doing it. They're running it, but the money that they're getting
Interesting.
from it is the Canada Pension.
Wow. Okay, so lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, there's big developments going on all down. Like I said, about $500 million now currently underway, and then there's just been new announcements of big condos that are going to be built, and the conversion of the old Paul Martin post office into a hotel and condo, and we
Okay.
got a casino right downtown too.
Okay, so keep getting me to this whole the name change.
Yeah. So so the community improvement program has two big carrots that they dangle for investors. One is we'll give you $5,000 per unit that you add to the downtown core, up to a maximum of 10, so $50,000, which is good. It's a nice grant, and that's a one-time grant that they give you, and that pretty much offsets our building
The building
permit.
cost.
Our building permit was like $49,000. So that helped there. But the big carrot is the tax freeze. If you add new residential in the downtown core, they will freeze your taxes for 5 years at the rate it was before you bought it. And then, but if you go above and beyond and you want to attain a certain environmental accreditation called LEED, have you ever
Yes,
heard of LEED?
yes, lead buildings for sure. Yeah.
So if you go and get LEED certification, they'll freeze your property taxes for 10 years. So I was like, wow, 10 years. We got to go for that. So I looked into LEED and we're like, okay, we're going to get LEED. All right. And I applied for the LEED with, I've got a third party, certifier and yeah, it looks like we're not only going to get LEED, we're going to actually get LEED gold, I think. We're going to either be really close to silver.
So can you
or
describe what you have to do to get LEED for anyone listening?
Yeah, so you have to really consider when you're building, the building envelope. You have to make sure that every single unit is airtight and there's no leakages between units. You have to super insulate. You have to do radon gas venting, which most people don't even know what that is. But I mean, there's radon gas venting up from the earth everywhere. Right now, as we sit here, there's radon gas. Unless you have a radon gas vent, there's gas coming through the concrete. And this radon gas is, now we know that it can cause cancer, right? If you spend a lot of time in your home. And certain areas have worse than others. But LEED certification, you have to put in a radon vent, which basically when you open up your ground floor to do all your replumbing, you have to put in some vents in the ground, and then you have to exhaust that to the roof so that it basically bypasses your building. So that's one thing you have to do. We did a hot water recovery system. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do to get points, but you have to buy more expensive windows. You have to do more expensive insulation. You have even the flooring and the materials you use, they all have to be like zero VOCs, and they have to be environmentally sustainable. So we put in cork flooring from Portugal.
So you did it. You went for it.
Yeah, we went for it.
Okay.
We're definitely going to get it. We
Okay.
just don't know if we're going to get
So
silver.
some inspector has to come in and check it all out. You
That's
have to
right.
show all your purchases and materials
Absolutely.
and this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
everything has to be Energy Star.
Yeah,
and
okay.
everything like that.
Okay.
But the great thing is that so in the beginning when we went for the LEED certifier came up with and one of the biggest things that we had to do is we had to put solar on the roof.
Okay.
Because we have to generate our own. Well, you get a whole bunch of points if you put solar on. You probably could do it without, but we wanted to get it. I don't know. My personality is like, if you're going to go this far, let's just go that far and do it better. So I wanted to get as best LEED accreditation if we could. And so we decided we got a 5,000 square foot flat roof that's unobstructed because there's not that many tall buildings around. So, and Windsor gets the highest sun days of any place in Canada. So we said, hey,
You're our
Mr.
like
Solar.
freaking Florida on Windsor, man. You're
It is the Florida of
Let's
Windsor. Windsor's referred to as the Florida of
Is
Canada.
it? Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
even know that it was.
Yeah.
I just sometimes look at it on the map. I'm like, geez, man, that's pretty.
Yeah,
Like,
we're always like 6, maybe sometimes 7 degrees warmer than you
you're
guys.
just showing off now. Yeah. Okay.
And so, yeah, Windsor is the Florida of Canada, and we're bringing, what we always say to everyone is we're bringing the South Beach to that Florida.
Oh, geez, got it. And is that why you have the kind of the lighting the way you do and stuff? That's why
we got
the
all
building looks
railings
like the way
lit
it
up
does.
and
Yeah.
everything, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, the LEED certification, we wanted to go for that. And one of the biggest things was putting the solar in. And at first we thought, based on calculations that the lead certifier did, we thought, okay, the solar is going to generate almost as much electricity as the building requires. And we're like, okay, so we're going to be close to net zero, but that's great. But afterwards, I started doing, I was trying to maximize, I was like, how can we get more? Because we were so close to being net zero. I was like, how can we get more energy? I want to get net zero if we can, right? And then I called and found out you can't even get net zero. At the time, we couldn't even get net zero accreditation because they hadn't established criteria yet for multifamily buildings. They were only doing single family homes. Now they have a couple in that are, you know, in what's the word? They're
In process.
in process, yeah, just trial, right? And they haven't announced them yet. Like they haven't announced that they're finished yet or anything. But so I wanted to get this net zero. So I kept on looking at how could we maximize a solar, and I picked a solar company here in Toronto based on a recommendation of a real estate investor who's also really big into solar, and we went with Otter Solar here out of Toronto. And they're very aggressive about how they can get you the maximum amount of energy for the smallest space. And I love that. So we picked them, and they came up with their own prediction. They came up with how much megawatts per year we're going to generate from the solar. And we were at like 75, 80 megawatts. And the lead certifier was saying, well, you're going to need about 70 or 67 or 70, or maybe even anywhere from 67 to 70, all the way up to maybe even 80 megawatts for the building. And I was like, we're so close to net zero. But then later on, I got better data from the States. I don't know what modeling they were using, but I found better data from the States basically on LEED certified apartments, not homes, but apartments. And these were all based on 900 square foot apartments, which are much bigger than ours. And the energy usage was so low. Everything's Energy Star, everything's insulated, everything's airtight. And so I started crunching the numbers based on their data in the States, and I came up with like 40 megawatts. So now we're looking at almost double the amount of energy from the solar that the building will use. So we had this big extra of energy, and I'm like,
That's quite
wow.
the calculation change.
Yeah, it was a big change. And I went back and forward, and I showed it to them, and they're like, yeah. And I showed it to my lead certifier, and he's like, well, that's interesting. That's newer data than what we're using in our modeling. And I'm like, yeah. And this is based on 900 square foot apartments. I have like the 500 square foot apartment.
Now I know where you're headed.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I've got all this extra energy, and I'm like, okay, what are we going to do with it? Because the net metering program, the microfit program's gone. You can't sell it to the grid. If you don't use it up, you lose it. You get a credit for 12 months, and if you don't use that, you lose it.
Gone.
So I was like, okay, how are we going to use all this energy? And I thought, and just one day I thought, okay, we got this small commercial space that I was going to use just for like storage for my other business. I was like, why don't we put Bitcoin miners in there? They'll use up the energy. And that was the day I was like, okay, well, let's put Bitcoin.
Did you know anything about Bitcoin mining?
I did. I've been kind of orange pilled since 2017. I got into, not Bitcoin mining, I got into Zcash mining back in 2017, just after the big pump and dump.
Okay.
Right. And so I learned all about that, and I bought some Bitcoin back then.
Wow, you've been chasing a lot of different things over the years.
Yeah.
It's all coming together, though. It's all coming together
Yeah,
here.
it's all coming together. So yeah, I decided, that would be a great idea. Let's put this, let's make this, use up all the electricity with Bitcoin, and probably I can probably put enough Bitcoin miners in there to use it all up. And I was like, and then it just hit me. Why don't I just call the building the Bitcoin building, right? And we'll call it the Bitcoin building. We'll put decorations up of the Bitcoin.
Yeah, I feel like you have neon signs now that say the Bitcoin building, right? That's what I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Eventually, it turned into our
Bitcoin artwork.
Our hallways are an art gallery.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. That's what I saw.
That's what we were trying to say, a museum, but I don't think museum's proper. I think it's more of we've built an art gallery to Bitcoin in our hallways and corridors, and so I called her up one day, and I'm like, guess what? We're changing the name. And she was probably pretty happy.
I was very happy.
So you were on board with this name change?
Yes, 100%. And because it also gives a theme to the building.
Yeah.
And instead of putting like pictures of flowers and whatever
Yeah.
else, I was traveling a lot. So I thought, the hallway is going to be filled of my travel pictures.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, well, that changed. But
Yeah, I thought I was going to see some resistance to it right away because she was, she had heard about Bitcoin. I told her about it and everything, but she wasn't like really, Bitcoin, anything close to a
but
Bitcoin.
the old name she didn't like enough.
think
That's
that
what it
was
was.
it.
That's what it
Any
was.
name change was going to be better
That's
than
right.
that name.
Yeah, I could have called it the Moon Building.
Yeah,
She was like,
yeah.
yes. But yeah, I told her that, and she was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then afterwards, I started thinking again, how can we make this even better? And so I knew Bitcoin miners give off a lot of heat because the miners, my GPU miners that I had before gave off quite a bit of heat. And I was like, okay, now we got to deal with the heat and the sound.
Are the miners in there right now in the building?
They're just not running yet.
Okay.
We just got the electrical connections there, and but when I get back this weekend, I'm going to fire them up.
Cool. Okay, so they're going to give off heat. What are you going to do with the heat?
So with the heat, we could either just vent it right outside, but I thought that's such a waste. So I came up with an idea. I said, listen, I'm going to buy some commercial hot water tanks, and I'm going to destroy my warranty on them. I'm going to take them apart, and we're going to figure out how to vent the hot water, the hot air into these hot water tanks and heat the water with the Bitcoin miners. But I didn't have to do any of that. When I started doing my research, I found a model of hot water tank. It's called a hybrid hot water tank. And what it is, it's your traditional hot water tank with an electric coil that goes around it, but it has a heat pump on top of it. And that heat pump takes warm air out of the regular air. Yeah, it takes the heat out of the air, condenses it to make it even hotter.
What was the application of that? They're used in places, they're used in, I guess, factories that have
They're actually residential models. They're not
residential
commercial. They're
models built like
residential
this?
Yeah.
I guess this might be something obvious that I've just missed over the years. I don't think I've ever heard of this.
Yeah, so you could. It's very new, but you could put them in any renter, any a rental housing investor could put them in their room that usually is pretty warm, anyways, right?
Sometimes you open up those kinds of rooms and it's like a wall of heat hitting
absolutely.
you.
Well, this thing will take that heat, condense it, and heat your water for almost free. You're only paying for the electricity
It's
to run
that
that heat
efficient
pump.
that it can do that?
Heat pumps are so efficient.
Really?
Absolutely. The whole building actually is heated by heat pumps. All of our heating in the units and the stairwell and the hallways is all heated by heat pumps.
Heat pumps that are not part of these hot water heat pumps.
No.
This is other heat pumps.
These are like mini split
Yeah, got it.
systems,
Yeah, got
mini
it.
split
Okay.
heat pump
Yes.
systems.
Okay. So in this room, then you're going to fire up these miners.
Yep.
They're going to produce heat.
They're going to bring the temperature of the room up to like 40 to 50 degrees Celsius.
These water heaters are in the same room
Absolutely.
now.
And we're
Okay.
actually putting ducts over top because these heat pumps, you can actually duct in and duct out of them.
Okay.
So out of the top of them, we're ducting in the hot water, which we're going to put a ducts right over top of the miners to capture that heat. It goes right into the heat pump. The heat pump condenses that, creates almost free hot water for the building. What comes out of the other side of the heat pump is nice, cold, air-conditioned air, which we're going to then duct underneath the miners to keep the miners cool. To help keep
smart.
the miners cool. So
This is ridiculous, like in the best possible way.
it's really cool. And that's why we go around saying that we are the first, as far as we've heard, we are the first multifamily residential apartment building in the world to integrate Bitcoin miners into the mechanical system of the building.
And we're hoping that the revenue generated by the Bitcoins may actually be counted towards our NOI.
Yeah. We're going to try. We're going to
It's
argue.
part of the system.
We're going to set up the lease for that commercial space so as that part of the profits from the Bitcoin mining go to the building. And so that will increase our NOI, so it'll increase the value of the building.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is ludicrous.
So it's lowering our costs and it's adding income to the building as well at the same time. And on top of that, now we're going to duct. Not only are we ducting into the hybrid hot water tanks, but we're now going to duct into the hallways and the stairwells because we can't do it into the units because the units have to be self-contained and airtight.
Got it. That's for lead.
That's for the
correct.
lead, yeah.
Okay,
But
but
we can-
hallways and
but hallways and
common
stairwells,
areas.
yeah, we're going to.
So you're going to
that
take
heat.
excess heat
We're gonna
because there's going to be excess heat here that's not trapped properly.
Absolutely.
And you can redirect that.
Yeah,
How are you going to redirect that though? It's just it's sitting in the room.
So it's in the room. We're going to have ducts that will go naturally. The heat will just go into the ducts and go to the hallways because one hallway's up.
You think you can get that much pressure, that much flow?
Oh, I can put fans on as well.
But won't that suck it
Move.
away from the heat pumps on the water?
No,
heaters?
I think
because you think
I
you'll
think
be able
there's
to
gonna
trap
be
that.
way too much heat. I think even on top of heating the hallways and the stairwell and the hot water tanks, I'm still going to have to vent.
You think
heat
so?
out. Yeah, there's going to be that much heat because eventually, right now we're starting with 2 Bitcoin miners, and they're not the latest, greatest ones. They're 3rd generation S17s, but they give off a lot of heat. But we have enough amperage in the building that we could do up to 30 miners. So we might have a small farm.
From the solar, you can do that many miners.
No, we would exceed our solar capacity.
Oh, okay, got it. You're talking
But
about
we
what you
have-
could pull in from the building.
Yeah, the actual with the service that's brought into the building, the excess amperage that we have in our main panels, we could accommodate up to 30 miners.
So you're just going to play with this to see how the numbers work.
Yeah.
Because it may not make sense. I know the hash rate right now is really kind of high. So you're just going to figure stuff out as you go here.
Well, our miners are S17s. If you go on one of those calculators,
yeah.
they're calculated to lose about $900 US per year currently at current prices, right? Maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure what Bitcoin price is at today.
Got it. You're looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, I'm looking at your clock. Yeah, that's really cool. I got to
Yeah.
get one of those. And
The Bitcoin building should have one of
we
those.
should.
I mean, come
We
on.
should. I'm going to ask you where we got it. But so
I'm pretty sure that's a Canadian out of Toronto. I think it's CoinKite's companies that make that. Anyway, we'll follow up on that.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
But they're currently going to lose money per year, but that's based on paying residential electricity or retail electricity rates. Now, even though I have a bunch of electricity that's going to be used basically for free, I still estimate that the Bitcoin miners, these 2 Bitcoin miners, will use up just as much electricity, if not more, than the whole building combined.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of how much electricity they use up.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the leftover from the solar, it's going to be good, but it's not really
not gonna
going to
cover
satisfy what
everything.
you think you want to do here.
It's not going to cover the total electricity needs for both of them. It'll probably cover about 80 to 90% of their
But
electricity.
you can extrapolate where this is headed. Like what you've done is you're building something that's cutting edge. Like the way you're thinking about this is totally cutting edge. Like this is, this is stuff that really you're saying it's the first, But if you extrapolate this out from what you're learning in this building to, let's say, 2 or 3 projects down the line, where the heck do we end up? Where you're putting solar, but then to pay for some of the solar, you can take that energy and monetize it.
Absolutely.
You can freaking monetize it. And this is where I think the people that are against Bitcoin's energy usage get it all wrong.
Absolutely.
What Bitcoin is allowing, Bitcoin is basically forcing the development of more efficient energy systems.
Absolutely.
Like Bitcoin is literally changing the physical world. We have a digital thing that is pushing back on the digital world and pushing back on the physical world and forcing the physical world to get better. It's absolutely ludicrous that we have a
incredible.
digital thing that's changing what we're doing in physical reality.
And at the
it's always been like kind of the reverse, right? Like in physical reality, we'll make artificial intelligence and we'll make digital worlds. We now have like this reverse system happening. To me, it's completely mind-blowing. Like it's incomprehensible almost.
I tell everyone I think Bitcoin is going to change the world more than the internet did.
I really believe when you change, I think Bitcoin gets labeled currently as to many people as like this strange thing, or if they kind of sort of understand it, it's like gold 2.0. Oh, I get it. It's like a digital scarce gold. It is so much like it's an open protocol. It's permissionless. It's censorship resistant. When you look in the security aspects of it, like when I was in IT, if you're going to protect some digital database, you would do all these kinds of things to make it not hackable and stuff. I'm not a techie anymore, but now that I could write possibly APIs to say if someone's going to access a really sensitive system, they have to prove to me that they have some Bitcoin as well, because I can programmatically interface with Bitcoin in that manner. And to get the Bitcoin, any hacker would actually have to expend energy to get the Bitcoin. It makes my system so much more secure, because now it's just not like you hacking a password. You have to show up with like hacking a password and proving
and
back it with like, hey, I have this many sats. And if you want to make it really secure, you could say, I have this many sats, a whole lot of sats, a whole lot of Bitcoin, or you're not getting into the system.
Absolutely.
So like, what's that then? Now we have what? A security protocol? This is, I mean, it's just, and it's making you change what you're doing on solar panels on a roof in Windsor. It is completely mind-blowing. And I think that's why sometimes when I look at this thing, I'm like, what are we even looking at?
Yeah.
Like, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it almost has a life of its own. And it will, it's going to go down, I think, as probably the best invention of mankind.
I'm-
Until the next best.
Yeah, but this one's really high up. I feel like the layers to this onion are just like we're not even starting yet.
I tell everyone, everyone that I try to orange pill, I tell them, look, in Bitcoin terms, here's a way of comparing it. We are like back in 1996 on the internet.
Totally.
That's how early we are still. And look at how the internet has changed the world. What we're doing right now is going to be on the internet. Everything. Everything's on the internet. Everyone's on the internet every day. And Bitcoin's going to do more than that.
And the weird part is because the price is so depressed right now, I think a lot of people who don't understand are just kind of like, yeah, whatever, have fun with your little Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But if you look at some of the stats just on the Lightning Network, the users, the number of transactions,
The wallets,
everything's
the hash rate.
growing. And I'm like, okay, price is down, but like underneath, it seems like there's more activity here, not less.
Institutional adoption is growing. Everything. Yeah. It's
weird times, but that's just an incredible thing that I got to give credit to you both, like to kind of being so open-minded and to also just, Ray, you said it a couple times, like you don't want to just do something one way, you want to like go all the way.
Yeah.
And it
I
feels
always
like
try to
you're
search-
going all the way.
I'm always asking myself, how can we make things better? How can we do better? How can we make it, like, this is great, but how can we make it even better?
Yeah.
And we even have plans to improve upon what we've done already. I'm going to put a Bitcoin statue in front of the building. It's going to be a Statue of Liberty, right? She's going to be holding up a Bitcoin with the anonymous mask on her face.
No way.
And she's going to have like all this wording on her sash and everything like this, like, fix the money, fix the world and everything.
This is going to be a destination in Windsor.
Yeah, I think so. I'm
funny
really
'cause-
looking forward to all the Bitcoiners coming.
Yeah. It's funny because I think to a big part of a lot of people are really going to love it. And a lot of people are just going to look at you guys going, oh, those strange, like, what are those weirdos doing over there with that building? But wow, I can't wait to see, in a year or two to kind of get reports back from you guys on like, hey, here's what we learned from this process.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you found commercial or the residential hot water tanks.
It blew my mind.
You must have freaked out that day.
I thought it was like a godsend because I thought I was really going to have to engineer and pay an engineer to help build something unique and different. But when I found out these things already existed, it was great.
Does the company know the manner in which you're using them?
Yeah, I contacted like pretty high directors because I wanted to make sure that this would work. So I ended up speaking to one of the directors, and he was like, "Wow, I've never heard of anyone using it this way before." And I had to put multiple tanks in because they only had an 80-gallon tank. That was the biggest one. So I put in 2, but I have capacity to put in a third if for some reason the water heating can't recover fast enough, like if everyone's taking a shower at the same time. So I have the capacity to put in a third one if I have to. But I think the 2 are going to, handle the job. And when he heard about it, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And he's like, wow, let us know how it goes. This is really cool. And so eventually I want to actually do a partnership with them and start promoting this. And people
Do they even care what you're doing, or are they just kind of curious at this point?
They're kind of curious, but I think once they see the potential of
Probably
it,
want to keep you at arm's length a little bit. Hey, we don't know what you guys are doing.
see
Let
how
us
it
know. If
goes.
it's positive, let us know. If it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
work, please don't contact us ever again.
yeah. But I think if it works and with the publicity we're going to get, I think they're going to be very interested in doing some kind of joint, marketing. And
Well, you're a nice proof of concept for them. That's for
yeah,
sure.
and we're doing it for free for them, right?
Yeah, you're doing it on
Actually,
your
I'm
dime.
paying for their product. They didn't give me any
Yeah,
discount.
you're doing it all on your dime. So where does this all lead for you guys? Like you want to do, and after this project, I can't see either of you sitting still. I mean, between
Tell us where
tax,
we're going from this, babe.
What? We're going to Brazil.
is that where you're going next? Brazil?
Yeah, we're actually going to go this winter. We're taking the winter off, and we're going to.
You've earned a break. You've both earned a break.
Yeah.
It was 2 hard years.
So, yeah.
Yana, come a little closer to the mic. I don't want to. Yeah, don't want to lose you there.
So we're this winter we're going to go away to Florida, and we're looking for another property somewhere in Florida because Florida is like the Bitcoin mecca right now. That's where the
Seeming that way. Yeah.
seeming that way. Yeah. And we really we heard about this city from some friends of ours down in Brazil called Florianopolis.
Okay.
And it's about a 9-hour drive south of Rio. The climate is almost perfect. It gets up to like 28, 29, 30 degrees max. And in the wintertime, the coldest it gets is like 11 degrees Celsius. And most of the time, you're going between 28 and 19 degrees.
Wow.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
like perfect temperature. And it's got 60 beaches. It's about a population of 1 million between the island itself and the.
Sounds
the
like you're
mainland.
moving there.
We're considering
Yeah,
it. We're
yeah.
considering it, and we want to do a
Listen,
a hotel.
you're
type
just selling
thing.
me on Windsor, Ontario, and you're already bailing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, we have another project
We have
actually.
another
in Windsor.
project, yeah.
Bitcoin Building 2 is going to be in Windsor.
Got it. Is that under control yet, or you just have your eyes on a site?
No, we own the property, and it's not going to be residential. It's going to be an indoor climate controlled self storage building.
The
Right.
first one in
The
downtown.
holy grail of every real estate investor.
It is. It's
Self-storage.
It's a great
Self-storage.
the highest rent per
Did
square
you see
foot
the
can
self-storage here on this property here? I don't know if you saw it when you came in.
No.
I'll tell you the numbers. We know the person who did that and kind of sold out of it. We'll tell you the numbers on that building.
get. They make a lot of money.
They built it and then filled it and then sold it. And I'll tell you what they got for that building. It's it's an incredible story.
Yeah.
So good for you guys.
and the great thing is you have no Residential Tenancies Act to deal with. You know.
To me, it's not even that. I'm never scared of Residential Tenancy Act. To me, I'm just scared of humans.
Yeah.
So like you just
Well,
have
it's
no
what
humans
can do with the Residential
exactly.
Tenancies Act.
Exactly. You just have very few humans. You have their stuff, but then they leave.
Yeah.
And they don't pay. You're like, get out of here. You don't get your stuff back.
Yeah, you've auctioned it off and
That's
clear it out.
Move
and
on
there
to
you
the
go.
next.
Move on
It's
to the next.
just a brilliant business, and everybody has too much stuff because we're in North America, a very consumer-based economy. Here, put all your junk in our space and pay me for holding your stuff.
And the thing is, in downtown Windsor, like I told you, there's $500 million worth of residential development, and most of it is conversion projects from commercial to residential, because everyone's jumping on that bandwagon, and they don't have storage. And they're
Well, if everyone's
they're not gonna
building
have
space the square foot you are,
Yeah.
well, you guys
They're all gonna be
they
smaller,
need storage. So I see what you're doing.
Yeah. And we're gonna
you're
be the
building
only ones
residential
downtown.
small enough
Yeah.
that no one has space for their stuff, and then you're going to put a self-storage place next to it.
That's
I
right.
totally see your master
Yeah,
plan. I
actually,
think-
there was a funny story with it. So Ray saw this building, and it's an eyesore right in downtown Windsor. It looks horrible. It's dilapidating. Again, homeless are breaking in, and the owner couldn't sell it for some time. So Ray's like, I want to do self-storage in here. And we went to the city, and we're like, nope, no self-storage. It's industrial zoning. We don't allow anything industrial in downtown.
Yeah.
So then, so that idea kind of went away. But then, Ray met with
I went out
our
for
city
drink.
councilor.
Yeah, I went out for drinks one night with the city councilor in the downtown core, and he loved what I was doing at the Blanchard Boutique Apartments.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't the Bitcoin building back then, but he loved the fact that we were doing that. And he said to me, well, are there any other projects? And I was like, well, I have this other one that I really like, I want to do, but I just don't think I can do it. And he goes, tell me about it. I'm like, I don't really want to give it away in case I can do it. He's like, believe me, just tell me it. And he convinced me, and I told him about it, and he's like, do it. Go buy it. I'll get you the zoning.
Yeah. And Ray went the next day and gave them the offer.
And have you got the zoning yet?
And
Yeah,
we
we
got
got
the
the
zoning.
zoning.
Oh, wow.
It was about a 6-month process. Cost about $10,000, but we got it.
Good
We're
for you.
actually the only property in Windsor that can do residential, commercial, and industrial in the same
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah, what a story. I mean, just the way that you guys are plowing forward, buying tax sales with mold and moving to the place to actually kind of flip it. And I
a
mean,
crazy
this is
adventure.
ultimately what it takes. But along the way, you guys, like all of us, have clearly made some mistakes, like all of us. But the value in those in that is that you've learned from those mistakes, and those mistakes kind of guide your next moves.
Absolutely.
And it's your ability and willingness to make some of those mistakes and kind of go through. Because I'm sure when you were like mining that Zcash or Zcash or whatever that was called, that gave you some knowledge on mining that you were then able to apply to Bitcoin. All these things adding up together is just kind of incredible. What a really unique story.
Thank
I
you.
really, really appreciate you. I mean, you're driving all the way in here from Windsor to share this story. So thank you for this. I'm wondering where this goes next. So you're going to have to come back in a year, give us an update, or 2 years. I don't want to do. I don't want to do
out at the building.
Sure. Yeah. You said that, and you're very kind. I think Nick and I would both like to come in and check it down. Just the last 6 months, year. I feel like I feel like we have more time in our business, but my time's booked with other. I don't know. I feel like I'm tied up. But anyway, I think it's travel. This year,
That's
Nick
great.
was looking at the travel dates. He's like, "You've really traveled a lot this year," and I was just like, "Yeah,
That's nice.
I totally have." And
But that's
really,
what you did it all for.
yeah,
right?
it
So you could
really-
have that.
It really is.
Yeah.
It totally is, and it feels great to be able to travel with family. And earlier this year, I traveled with my dad a little bit, and yeah, That's what it's totally all about.
Yeah.
But we will make our way. You have my word. We're coming to this building. I want to check
Yeah,
it
I'm
out.
gonna put you up-
And I want to
I'm gonna
go
put you
in
up
the
for the night,
alley
yeah.
to the mining facility at the side door. First stop. I don't even want to see any of the residential stuff. I just want to see these hot water tanks.
Well, we have it set up so that anyone who stays in the building, whether short term or midterm, you're going to walk through. You can go through both corridors and see the whole, see all the gallery. We have this giant feature wall on the second floor that has the whole Genesis block of the Bitcoin building on it.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
I feel like on your next one, you're going to have like a plexiglass or a glass window into the facility that's doing the mining.
We already have it in this
Oh,
one.
do you?
Yeah.
So you can see into it?
So when you walk through the hallway, you come to the office and it's got a big window on the steel door, and you can look inside and you'll see you'll see exactly what you saw in those pictures. You'll see the acoustical paneling behind it to deaden the sound, and you'll see the venting going over top, so the ducting going over top of it into the hybrid hot water tanks which you'll be able to see, and you'll see the Bitcoin miners, and you'll probably hear a little bit of them buzzing away.
So
I don't know how loud it's going to be yet.
Yeah. Part of the process. You're going to learn.
Yeah.
How would if someone wants to, learn more about what you're doing, figure you guys out, find more, is there some contact in a URL? Just Google the building name. What do you want to hand out here?
Contact us at info@thebitcoinbuildings.com.
So plural.
Plural.
You're
Because there's
already
gonna
going
be
plural.
Absolutely.
You're already info@thebitcoinbuildingsplural.com.
Yeah. Yeah, because we want to build out, our plan is over the next 10 years to build a network of at least 50 of these properties around the world. Like if El Salvador is going to do the Bitcoin buildings, Bitcoin city, we're there. We're going to build like a spa resort on the beach there and call it the Bitcoin building. So we want to do a network of these around the world. And we don't necessarily have to own them all. Just like, Trump doesn't own all the Trump buildings, right? But we're going to own the brand. And so other people will want to brand their buildings, the Bitcoin buildings, and that's how we'll get to 50 pretty quickly. And they'll just pay us, a royalty for the name, and they have to keep certain standards. And
Thinking big.
And then
Love
we'll
it.
start a
Yeah.
membership.
Yeah.
We'll follow your lead, and we'll
Yeah.
start a membership, and we'll have the Bitcoin membership around the world.
Very
And
cool.
it'd be so cool that you could go anywhere in the world and stay in any region of the world. You could stay and pay in Bitcoin.
10, 20 years from now, we're going to look back on this period like we were all crazy, or like everybody thinking this way was ahead of their time. I don't know fully. I'm leaning one way. Like I'm pretty sure I know which way we're going to reflect on this time, but it's fascinating times.
Yeah.
Thank you to both of you. Thank you
you.
for coming out. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being so open, kind of sharing your journey. Really appreciate that. And yeah, we're going to catch up with both of you. I don't know when it'll be appropriate, but Nick and I at some point are coming out there. Definitely.
Awesome.
Have my word. We're
Awesome.
doing that. And I'm going to have to bug you to come back here. Or if we go out there, maybe we'll just do a remote podcast while we're out there or something.
That would be
like
great. That would be awesome.
Thank you both. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can find every new episode of the Your Life, Your Term show on all the major streaming platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And if you'd like to get free copies of some of the books that we've put together, like these right here, or some of the reports that we've put together, like these right here, you can find all of those at www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.